Since their reintroduction into world cricket in 1991, South Africa have pressed on to become among the most successful teams in world cricket, and have been able to boast some of the greatest players and teams of all time. Having been ranked number 1 in Test cricket for a cumulative 42 months and ODIs for 71 months, South Africa have become the second or third most successful nation of the last 3 decades, and for large expanses of that period, the number 1 nation. Therefore, we'd expect a team of such calibre to have been able to demonstrate this via a number of trophies at the top ICC tournaments. However, in this time, South Africa have earned a reputation as chokers at global tournaments, and given their propensity to lose in semi-finals, often from winning positions, this reputation is not unwarranted. If we consider the 3 major trophies in world cricket over this period to be the ODI and T20 World Cups and the Champions Trophy, South Africa have lost in the semi-finals at these events 10 times out of 11 attempts. South Africa's cursed semi-final run began at the 1992 World Cup, when a rain-interrupted match against England turned farcical, with South Africa chasing 23 of 13 balls remaining, a difficult but certainly not impossible chase. Rain came and ruled out 2 more overs, and under the rules at the time, the revised target was set by the most productive overs method. This was a method that was particularly flawed and effectively punished South Africa for bowling well in their first innings. It meant that South Africa went from chasing 23 in 13 balls to an impossible 22 in just 1 ball. And this would set the tone for semi-finals to come. It was a while between semi-finals for South Africa, but their next one, at the 1998 Champions Trophy, they actually beat Sri Lanka in the semi-final and then went on to beat the West Indies in the final. This would be the one and only time that South Africa would ever win a semi-final at a global tournament. A year later at the 1999 World Cup, South Africa looked to have the early ascendancy against Australia, taking 4 wickets for just 68 runs in the first innings, before Steve Waugh and Michael Bevan stabilised the innings and brought Australia to a total of 213. Not that good, but ultimately defendable. South Africa's run chase was slow and calculated, but they heaped plenty of pressure on their lower order and eventually needed 9 runs in the final over, with 1 wicket remaining to win against Australia. Lance Klusener, who had been an incredible player throughout the whole tournament, looked to be the hero as he smashed the 2 first balls of the over for 8 runs with brutal power. On the 3rd ball, however, Alan Donald at the non-striker's end almost ran himself out, only surviving due to Darren Lehmann missing at the non-striker's end. Whilst the scores were tied, if he were run out, that would mean that Australia would progress to the final due to finishing higher in the previous stage. The very next ball, however, Klusener hit the ball and ran, probably out of panic. He hit the ball straight to Mark Waugh, whilst Donald at the other end didn't move, he simply watched. This meant that Waugh could throw the ball to Fleming, who then rolled the ball down the pitch to Gilchrist, who proceeded to initiate a run out, creating some of the most iconic scenes in cricket history as South Africa were eliminated in the semi-final. In the 2000, 2002 and 2006 ICC Champions Trophies, South Africa were overrun by India in the first 2 and in the third by the West Indies in their semi-finals, unable to repeat their success at the 1998 tournament. In 2007, South Africa were completely destroyed by Sean Tate and Glenn McGrath and put up a paltry 149-run target for Australia, and this was chased down in 32 overs with only 3 wickets down. In the 2009 World T20, Shahid Afridi got Pakistan to a respectable score and then took 2 for 16 in his 4 overs to ensure that South Africa couldn't chase their 149, with Callison Duminy putting up 108 runs between them at a strike rate of only 116, going far too slow for what was still a relatively new format. In the 2013 Champions Trophy, South Africa once again failed to give themselves a chance, at one point being 8 for 80 against England in the first innings. Whilst they recouped to 175 on the back of David Miller and Roy Kleinveld, it was too little too late, as England ran over the top of them, 3 down with 13 overs to spare. In the 2014 World T20, South Africa actually gave themselves a good chance of winning the semi-final, putting up a target of 173, which was significantly higher than the average score in the tournament, but this was overrun by a rampant Virat Kohli and ensured that another semi-final loss would be there for South Africa. And at the 2015 World Cup, South Africa put up a decent score of 281 in 43 overs in a rain-interrupted match against New Zealand. An 82 from Faf, a 39 from Rousseau, a 65 off 40 throw from AB de Villiers, and a 49 off only 18 balls from David Miller meant that it looked like finally South Africa would overcome their then 17-year losing streak. A tense run chase ensued, and with New Zealand needing 5 runs off 2 balls in the last over, Grant Elliott smashed a 6 to once again ruin South Africa's hopes of reaching a final. South Africa have only won one major trophy in 22 attempts, despite reaching the semi-finals 11 times and at points being the best cricket team in the world. At times this has been a result of misfortune, but far too often they are simply outplayed or indeed let the match slip from a winnable position. I don't think there's anything cosmic in play here, but South Africa's difficulty in progressing past the semi-final has now transgressed generations and has no doubt been the bane of South Africa's existence in the last 30 years as far as cricket's concerned, and has no doubt been the biggest failure of the South African cricket team since their reintroduction. And finally, this video idea was suggested in the comments by Hasib Ryan. And if you have any video suggestions or any other comments for that matter, I'm very happy to hear them if you write them down in the comments. And I may very well make a video on that topic at some time in the future.